So let's talk about what I regard as probably one of the biggest crimes is the fact that our children are being poisoned by pesticides, and this is being ignored. The fetus, the newborn and growing children, do not have the same protective liver enzymes that adults have. As adults, we have enzymes that can break down poisons. In other words, if we have a few drinks of alcohol, most of us have the enzymes that can break it down. There's some people who can't, and they can die very quickly from alcohol. But most toxins, we can break them down because our liver has the ability to put out enzymes. But the developing fetus and the newborn do not have these enzymes. And that means they have no ability to break down any toxic pesticides. The peer-reviewed science shows that the smallest amounts of pesticides do serious damage to children. And in the literature, what we'll see that pesticides cause in children: lower IQs, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, the autism spectrum, cancers, organ damage, autoimmune diseases, lack of physical coordination, loss of temper, anger management, the whole bipolar, schizophrenia spectrum, depression and youth suicide, and also childhood obesity, because we know it's not just junk food, it's actually the way the metabolic systems are being changed, and they don't have the ability to burn the sugars. Their bodies convert them into fat straight away and start to store it rather than actually burning them. It's a major issue that we are understanding is caused by the endocrine disruption effect of these chemicals. This is a peer-reviewed paper that I'm one of the authors of. And we looked at 22 diseases here in the USA and correlated it to the increase in glyphosate and GMOs. And this one I want to show you because this is the increase in autism. Now, the yellow bars are the number of children being diagnosed with autism in the USA. The red line is the increase in the use of glyphosate or Roundup. If you look at the bottom of the bar, you can see there's not a lot of autism and not a lot of Roundup used. And then in the mid-1990s, that changes. Why? Because that's when Roundup-ready GMOs were introduced, and then it skyrockets. When we published this, the industry couldn't attack us on our data because it was very good. We got that from the US government, and our analyses were good. What they would say is that correlation is not causation. And they're right. It could be by accident that you could get an increase of sales of cell phones in Finland, and it tracks much the same. In fact, what they tried to do to debunk us is put out another graph showing how the increase of sales of organic foods in the USA mirrored this increase in diseases. So correlation is not causation. Things can be an accident that they look similar. However, there's a tool that we use in statistics called a Pearson's correlation coefficient. I don't expect you to ever remember that. But what it is, it's a way that we can look at the probability that these two graphs are linked. And in this case, I'll say the probability that Roundup is not the cause, is not linked to this epidemic of autism, is 1 in 10,000. Now, correlation studies are very useful for understanding if there is a problem. Now, for instance, if we had published this link to autism and we looked at a medication, a drug that's on the market, with this level of correlation, it would have been taken off the market. And they would have used the precautionary principle to look at, well, is this the case? Is this drug causing all these side effect of autism? But we're lucky Roundup is not a drug. It's only a poisonous pesticide, so there's no need to take it off the market, no need to get it out of our bodies and out of our food. That's the attitude of the regulatory authorities. Anyway, the year after we publish, a very good study comes out showing exactly how glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, causes this disease. Now, can you turn up the lapel mic? Because I just want to use the pointer. Maybe I'll just have to walk on and off. I just want to show you, point out different parts of these diagrams. These are nerve cells that are exposed to small amounts of glyphosate as they are developing. One is the control, that's the one without glyphosate, and the other is with a very small amount of glyphosate. And I want to point out the yellow line that looks like a lightning strike. That's called the axon. As the nerve develops, you can see the axon, it starts getting more complex. It's getting what we call branches. It's branching out. Each of those branches are important because that's how it communicates with other nerve cells. We look at the next division of the one treated with glyphosate, and it's just starting to get a simple axon. Here, probably, I don't know if you can see it well enough, probably not enough contrast, but what you should see, it looks like a massive lightning strike or tree roots. Lots and lots of branches, and this one has hardly got any branches. The more branches a nerve cell's got, it means the more other connections it can make. And this is very important. This is very important for our brains. The more connections that are in the brain, the bigger what we now know as a neural network is. The less connections means the brain is not working properly. It is undeveloped. The glyphosate nerves are undeveloped. They are not connecting. Connections are missing within the brain. The best way to think of it is like a computer and wires are cut. And it's not working properly. This is what glyphosate is doing. Our brain is our biggest collection of nerve cells. And what is happening here is because we know this crosses the placenta and affects the developing fetus and also young children. That means as their brains are growing, the nerves are being damaged and not making the connections, and this is why we're seeing issues like autism, ADHD, and a whole range of other behavioural problems. I would argue that that study alone is enough for glyphosate to be banned. Enough. And what's really important, thank you, I really appreciate that. What is really important here is that here they look at the actual biochemical pathway, how it affects the specific genes that give the signals to develop nerves. So this is very sound science. Why it's ignored to me is criminal. I'll call ignoring this child abuse.